Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. What if I told you, according to one of America's most well-known financial personalities, if you don't retire a millionaire, that's no one's fault but yours. That's a bold headline I came across recently on MSN. And let's just say, it stopped me in my tracks. Now, Dave Ramsey is no stranger to making big, provocative statements. But this one hits a nerve, especially for those in their 20s, 30s, or even early 40s trying to figure out if financial independence is even really possible. Inside this article, Dave Ramsey claims that the average 25-year-old could retire with nearly $1.2 million if they simply invested $100 a month for 40 years. That sounds amazing, right? Until you dig into this calculation and you realize that that's based off an annualized return of 12.68%. This is pretty classic Ramsey though. He's pretty famous for projecting long-term average rates of return of 12% or even higher, so long as you're investing in what he calls good growth stock mutual funds. That 12% number has almost become a hallmark of the Ramsey brand. Now, maybe you agree with his number, or maybe you don't. Personally, I tend to be a little bit more conservative. I tend to use an 8% rate of return when I run my projections. Here's why. Over the past century, stocks have returned about 10% per year before inflation. But once you factor in a typical inflation rate of 2%, that's more like an 8% real rate of return. Now, of course, you can absolutely make the case for using a higher number or a lower number, but the truth of the matter is nobody can predict the future with 100% certainty. So my advice is to use a number that you're comfortable with. Another way I like to think about it is if you go on the more conservative side, you're more likely to hit your goal or end up with more than you expected. On the other hand, if you go too aggressive, you could fall short of your goal, and that's going to sting a little bit more. But let's zoom out for a second. I genuinely like the message Ramsey is putting out there. If you're young and just starting out, let's say you're in your 20s or your 30s, or heck, even your early 40s, the idea that becoming a millionaire is not only possible, but totally within your control, well, that's a powerful message. And I think for the vast majority of working professionals in America, this is entirely true. Let's look at some real numbers. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median income for a single earner household is just under $76,000, while a dual earner income household, it's about $118,000. If you save 15% of your income over the course of a 30, 35, or 40-year career, you're not just on track to be a millionaire. You could be looking at a net worth of $2, $3, $4, or even $5 million, depending on your household income. For example, if you're in a dual earner household, you could end up with anywhere from $2 to $4.6 million saved for retirement. And even if you're in a single earner household and have the median income, you might still build up a $1.3 to $3 million nest egg over the course of your career. These are impressive numbers, and that's using an 8% rate of return. And remember, if you're using an 8% rate of return based on historical market performance, that's factoring in 2% long-term inflation. So these are real inflation-adjusted numbers. Now, I know that hitting a 15% savings rate isn't always easy. Sometimes life gets expensive. And honestly, some years are just going to be harder than others. Maybe you're dealing with a big medical bill, a job change, or kids in college. If you can't hit that savings goal every single year, don't worry about it. It's totally normal. What matters is that if you get off track, that you get back on track and keep moving forward. Now let's make it even more accessible. If all you want to do is cross the $1 million finish line in 40 years at an 8% rate of return, you'd only need to invest about $286 a month. If you can score a 10% rate of return, well then it drops to just over $150 a month. That's really doable for a lot of people, especially when you see these numbers written out in black and white. But here's the thing, thanks to inflation, becoming a millionaire is far more accessible to more people than ever. But at the same time, $1 million doesn't have the same wow factor it once did. For context, if you had $1 million in 1980, that would be the equivalent of $3.7 million today in 2025. So yes, hitting millionaire status is becoming more common, and thanks to inflation, it's going to continue to become more and more common. What matters most is that you're maintaining and increasing your purchasing power over time, not just that you're hitting some random number. It's important to keep that perspective because what counts as wealthy today might not feel nearly as significant in the future. Let's go back to Dave Ramsey and his bold claim to become a decamillionaire. In the article, he also says the average household income in America today is $79,000. If you invested 15% of that, you would retire with around $11.6 million. That is a striking number to be sure, and let's get real at what these numbers look like. In order to hit this $11.6 million threshold, Mr. Ramsey is assuming that you're investing $12,000 per year, capturing a 12% rate of return, and doing that for 42 years straight. Whether or not you think that's in reach, well, that's up to you to decide. This would assume that if you do everything perfectly right and check all those boxes, you could hit that threshold. Now, let's consider what it would look like if we looked at, say, an 8% rate of return. With that same $11,850 invested every single year, you'd end up with about $3.1 million after 40 years. Or if you're really set on hitting that $11.6 million target, you'd have to keep saving and investing for about 57 years at an 8% rate of return. And let's be honest, most people don't have a 57-year investing time horizon before they step away from the workforce. Most people are looking at 30 or 40 years. But this does show just how important the rate of return that you use in your assumptions is. And this is where your investing time horizon really comes into play. And this is one of the reasons Warren Buffett is such a legendary investor. He's been investing for over 80 years. So when you give your money that long of a runway, it's pretty hard not to build serious wealth. Let's look at what this might look like in real life. Let's assume you invest $1,000 a month and you capture an 8% rate of return. Let's look at what that might look like over different time periods. After just about 10 years, you'd have around $183,000. Stick with it for 20 years, and that grows to almost $600,000. 30 years in, you're looking at about $1.5 million. After 40 years, you'd have roughly $3.5 million. And if you somehow manage to keep going for 50 years, well, that's nearly $8 million. Stay the game for 60 years, and yes, some people really do, your investments could grow to a staggering $17.8 million. And here's the best part. You're not working any harder in year 30 or 40 than you did in year 1. At this point, your money is taking over and it's doing the heavy lifting. This is the power of compounding. You're not grinding any harder, you're not putting in more hours, but your results keep getting bigger and bigger as the years go by. That is the magic of compounding. The longer you give your money to work, the more it multiplies, and this is truly how fortunes are built. But here's the question. Do you really even need $11.6 million to retire? For most people, the answer is probably not. The real number is what you need to fund your lifestyle, not a number picked from a headline. And to be honest, when you're picking a number that is decades away, it's always going to involve a bit of an educated guess. As you get closer and closer to retirement, that number should get clearer and clearer. And really, the important thing to focus on is saving a meaningful portion of your income, investing it consistently, and giving yourself a really long runway. And if you do that, you just might end up with more than you ever imagined. So can everyone become a millionaire or even a decamillionaire with enough time, discipline, and a little bit of luck? It's absolutely possible. But your number, the number you need to have a successful retirement, is personal. So don't get too hung up on what anyone else says you should have. Just make sure that you're setting something aside for savings and investments and allowing time to work its magic and giving compounding the runway it really needs. Your financial future isn't built because of some headline. It's built through everyday choices. So start where you are, keep going, and at the end of the day, you just might surprise yourself. So what is your goal? Do you have a target you're trying to hit by the time you step away from the workforce? Leave your thoughts in a comment down below. Do you think these numbers are realistic? I'd also love to hear that. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. The median income for a single earner household. Okay, I don't like that phrase, but we're gonna do it anyway. 50s or your 30s, or heck, I'm gonna redo just that last part because I don't like the way I said nest egg. Nest egg over the course of your career. Better. Common, and I would assume. So yes, well, that's exactly what would happen. But what I didn't like that. Is it impossible? Maybe not, but and let's break down these numbers a little bit. But this does show how the importance of what rate of return, oh my goodness, higher number or a lower number. Now, I don't know, it's just over. Wasn't as clean as I wanted, but we're okay.